There we go.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today, watch our recording, learn some more information about City Year. Definitely appreciate it. My name is Robert Humphrey. I'm going to be presenting today on City Year, giving you a little bit of background on what our organization is, what you would do if you serve with us as a core member, pretty much the basics. I'm also today joined by Jessica Stowers and Savon Jones, two City Year alum who are going to pretty much give us a little bit background about their experience in the core. I'll toss it to them if they want to give a little quick background about themselves, then we'll hear a little bit more from them later. So Jessica, if you'd like to quickly introduce yourself, where you served.
Sure, Jessica Stowers. I served here at City Year Detroit in 2009, 2010, and again in 2010, 2011. I've been on staff ever since, so did several years as an impact manager, so managing AmeriCorps members, a couple years as an impact director, and then this is my second year in this role where I lead our department of folks that are on the field.
So thank you. Savon, if you'd like to introduce yourself for us, please.
Yes. Hi, my name's Savon Jones. I'm currently an impact director here at City of Detroit, but I served in City of New Orleans, my native New Orleans, from 2016, 2017, and then from 2018 until 2021. So 3 years, I was an impact manager in City of New Orleans. And so similar to Jessica, I had a route where I was a core member, I did management for a while, and I'm about to be on it's almost been a year now that I've been at this role in City of Detroit, but I've gotten to do the work as a core member, help manage and work with core members directly in school settings, and then in this role, support managers from more of a top-down view.
Awesome. Thank you both for quick introductions to yourselves. I'll go ahead and jump in with our little presentation today. So give me a moment to share my screen and I will get a little handy dandy PowerPoint up here for us. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so like I said, I'll go ahead and sort of introduce you all to City Year, what we do, why we do, and what sort of your experience would look like day to day in doing the role should you choose to join us as a core member. So I'll start off by giving some statistical background just so you have an idea of why we are in existence and why we choose to do the work in educational equity that we do. So on average, roughly 800,000 students do not complete high school every year. So obviously this is an unfortunate, staggering number. And so we try to do our best to combat that and bring that number down as best as possible. So how do we do that? Well, we look at it as a solvable problem, and we can sort of look at the ABCs of how we can help bring that number down and get more students on track to graduation. So we identify A, attendance, B, behavior, C, course performance as the three different things that can be an indicator if to look at to see if a child is off track for graduation or not. So with attendance, let's say that they have like spotty attendance or there's some chronic absenteeism there for one reason or another, right? There are multiple reasons why that could be the case, but nonetheless, that is one indicator that could show that a student is off track to graduation. B, behavior. So obviously within the classroom setting, sometimes certain behavioral displays will come out that might not necessarily be quite productive to a classroom setting. And that could be an indication that a student is off track to graduation, mostly because a lot of times when there is some sort of not positive classroom behavior, it is a lot of times not because a child wants to act out, but because they are struggling to understand what is going on in school, and that is their way of coping. So we help to try to combat that, and this sort of leads into C, course performance. So when we look at a child's performance within the classroom in terms of curriculum, if they are struggling a bit with some of the academics in various subjects, then that can also be an indicator that they might be off track to graduation. So by looking at these three things and sort of targeting them early on, we can help to increase graduation rates. So again, statistically, students who exhibit one or more of those warning signs of the A, Bs, or Cs have at least a 75% chance of not completing high school. So that is why looking at those and identifying those and working to address them is very crucial and needed. And once those are addressed and we can help alleviate some of those issues, students, once they have reached the 10th grade, are 3 to 4 times more likely to actually graduate high school. So now that we have some like statistical background as to why we go into the schools and try to do the work that we do, I will now speak to what you can sort of expect on a day-to-day of what it would be like to be a corps member serving with us for a year with City Year. So there are a few different things that you could expect to do throughout each school day: tutoring, collaborating with teachers, analyzing data, and leading team initiatives. So in the tutoring capacity, you are assigned a focus list of students, usually about 5 to 7, give or take. And a few times a week, you would pull those students out of class and have one-on-one or small group intervention tutoring sessions with them. These are students that you're just providing that a little additional support to help get them on track with some of their academic coursework, and in an effort to address that, to help them in that capacity. In terms of collaborating with teachers, so you are paired with a partner teacher, and you work with that partner teacher daily on a few different things. Sometimes you're in the classroom, sort of as a second pair of eyes and ears, making your way around the room, making sure students are on task, but also collaborating with teachers is kind of coming up in conversation. What is the best pullout schedule to stay consistent with the students? Also using, and this will transition into the third thing, working together to see how the students you're working with are staying on track, and where you might need to focus a little more attention. And that comes in that third form with analyzing data. So as you know, districts across the country, they're mandated to have some of these standardized testing. And so throughout the year, as you are working with the students and they're taking those tests, you and your partner teacher can analyze that data to see where your attention with those students has been most improved, and maybe where you want to focus a little more attention. And in terms of leading team initiatives, you are in a school with other City Year corps members, depending on the size, 6 or 8 to 12, give or take. And in that capacity, you all collaborate on different things. So sometimes it's just team building activities to help with some of those transferable skills of like team building leadership. But also you can be leading initiatives such as in-school activities for the kids. This can be incentive-based things such as maybe like a dance party or pizza party based on certain things. It's not uncommon sometimes for City Year corps members to help with after-school activities, maybe like a reading writing club, something like that. So those different initiatives that you can also help with. Okay, so now that we've sort of talked about the day-to-day, what are some of the benefits that you get with City Year serving as a corps member with us? Well, you are paid a biweekly living stipend. That stipend varies based on location. It ranges anywhere from $8.90 to $11.22 biweekly. That is a pre-tax amount. I always like to be very transparent about that it is pre-tax, but that is our biweekly stipend range. If you are relocating more than 50 miles from your current address to your service city, you are eligible for a pre-tax $500 relocation assistance. All of our core members with us do have access to free health, vision, and dental, time off, employee assistance programs, access to counseling services, and also because City Year is an AmeriCorps program, you do also have access to some of those AmeriCorps benefits as well, such as loan forbearance. So if you do have any student loans while you serve with us, they can go into forbearance and you are not responsible for making any monthly payments on those during your term of service with us. After you serve with us, you are also eligible for the Siegel Education Award. That amount fluctuates a little bit every year, but it's usually around like $6,000. And you have access to that money as long as you successfully complete your term of service with us, and that goes toward educational costs. So those are just some of the benefits that you can expect when you serve with City Year. Additional benefits include access to tuition scholarships through some of our university partners. So we have more than 100 different university partner schools that will offer scholarship money to various undergrad and grad programs specifically for City Year alum. These are schools that have definitely identified that there's extreme value in students taking time out of taking a year of their time to complete national service and give back in this way. And it's a way for you to be rewarded in scholarship money through some of those university partners. This is pretty much just a slide to give you an idea of the different career paths that a lot of our alum end up going into, and sort of the percentage breakdown of that. So you'll see that 35% of our alum do end up going into government and nonprofit, which makes sense. City Year is a nonprofit, and it's a great way to sort of get into that space. Also up there is education. Again, also makes sense, right? We are an education nonprofit. You are serving in schools, working with students. But even though those are the two, areas that are pretty represented, if you will, there's still lots of other career spaces that our core members go into. So for example, we have medicine and law, right? A lot of people will take time to do City Year before med school or law school, because even though, again, we're an education nonprofit and you are working in a school in educational capacity, it is really a multifaceted experience that you get, that you can transfer into so many different career paths. And then you can see a few others there. Just general career fields, we have some that end up, again, enrolling as students, utilizing some of those university partners that we have. To the point of a lot of our alum going into the nonprofit sector as well, you also see on the screen that roughly 50% of City Year staff are City Year alum. Again, we have two on our call right now with Jessica and Savant. So it is, again, a really great way to sort of break into that space and then also utilize your service to give back within City Year in a different capacity as well. So if all this sounds great to you and you want to do a term of service with us and sort of experience what it's like to give back in this capacity, how do you apply? So you can go to our website and apply that way. You will have the option to choose from one of our 29 locations. A lot of us are currently sitting in Detroit, so shout out to Detroit. But again, you do get the option to select any of the 29 cities that we do serve in. We have a few requirements that in order to be eligible to apply and join. So you do have to be between the ages of 18 to 25 by the start of service, which is usually July-ish of any given year. Have a high school diploma or GED, and be a US citizen or US permanent resident. And then these are just some of our deadlines for this coming 2022-2023 academic year. City Year every year has multiple deadlines throughout the year. As you can see, most of the deadlines for the year have passed as we are approaching the end of our cycle, but we do have an upcoming app deadline on Friday, May 6th, and it's a rolling decision deadline. So once you apply, you should hear within a few days as to whether or not you were accepted or not. We are also, though, actively accepting applications a little bit after that May 6th deadline as well to join us for this upcoming year. So that is sort of the, I guess, general overview, if you will, of what City Year is, what you can expect to do, and some of the benefits that you get from doing City Year. So that is my contact information on the screen. If you would like to learn more about our program or speak to someone, i.e. me, more directly, please feel free to reach out via email, and we can definitely get you that information and get you on this path to join City Year. Okay, so at this time, I will we'll sort of open the floor to Jessica and Savan to sort of talk about their experience and also answer some questions. So I do see a question in the chat about what's a typical day like for a student success coach, which is another term for an AmeriCorps member with us. So I would love to hear from both Jessica and Savan about what you all, about your experience as a student success coach or AmeriCorps member was with us, sort of what your typical day looked like.
Yeah, I'll take this one. Yeah, so keeping in mind, again, my experience was in New Orleans, so that's always important context to give. My typical day, I was working at a high school, or I served at a high school, so my typical day would be first circle with my team. We're usually some of the first ones at the school. We usually chop it up. We meet with morning teachers and staff, have announcements and such. Uh, Later on, at that point, once we've met with staff, usually getting our day started, students start to arrive. We did morning greetings. So the team I was on, we were there where the buses were, and when the students would come in walking through from getting breakfast, we would sometimes do cheers, but just greet and just, start to build that relationship. From there, I had a 10th grade math class that I was assigned to, and so the majority of my time in that day was in that math classroom supporting the teacher, either helping with small groups or I would help support whatever she was rolling out. It really varied day by day when we would do our planning. But yeah, that was the bulk of my day. And then I supported with lunch. And then we also supported with after school and dismissal. But we were fully implemented into the full day. And then we did a little stuff before and after.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is our core members are put on teams in the summer. And so you'll be in a like cohort group of folks who are all serving in the same school. In Detroit, we do serve in grades 3 through 9. And so Savan talked about his high school experience. If high school is not your jam, there is a potential for you to work with some younger students as well. And then I do see I'm kind of like dual chatting it. I do see the question in the chat about after school program. And so each school, in each of our partner schools, after school program looks a little different based off of if we're the only provider of the after school program or if we're what's called co-providers. So we're supporting another program that's there. And so it could vary from different academic things to chess club to newspaper to I know a few years ago, there were core members who were like into karate, so they did a karate after school program. So really, it's for schools where you're able to lead your own after school program. It very much so is based around what the core member skill sets and interests are. So that's really fun. So if you have something where you've went to school and you're like, I have no idea how this would connect to my city year experience, it may very well be in the after school program. And so like I didn't major in education, I majored in broadcast and cinematic arts, and I had no idea why I was joining city year. And then I fell in love, and here I am 13 years later. So um, no matter what your major is, there's likely a way that you will find that you'll be able to utilize your skills here at City Year.
Awesome. Thank you both for sharing that. It's great stories that you both have. And sort of what Jessica just ended on, I guess, if you will, about having sort of a different area of study, but then still going into education and how you can still, utilize that in various aspects of City Year. I also see a question in the chat to both Jessica and Savan about what your roles are now and if you still work at City Year. So I'd love to hear about that. And also maybe if you all kind of also would like to speak about what made you want to also join City Year staff as well. So yeah, your role now, if you still work with City Year, and kind of what brought you to the staff after your service.
Yeah, I'll take this one. So my role now, so you said my role now and then what made me decide to stay? Yes. So my current role is that I'm an impact director. And for, I guess, for those who don't know what that role is, if you end up in City Year as a student success coach, as a core member, you're on a team with a manager. And that manager is someone you're going to work with closely in your day to day, and they lead a lot of the work you do throughout your, experience. My job is to manage those people. And again, all three roles are roles that I've served in. And when I think about, so a lot of this current role, is relationship management among school partners, but mainly it's supporting impact managers and making sure I can provide whatever they need to support their teams, aka, you all who are watching this recording now. What made me stay, it's really interesting, is that, you talk about why people join City Year. I originally wanted to do it as a gap year thing, and I wanted to go to law school. I had already taken the LSAT, taken classes, I was ready. But it sounds really cheesy, but the altruistic nature of the work and the students and the genuine relationships I build really made me reevaluate what I valued in a career. And that led to me deciding I wanted to come back as a manager. And it was a challenging role, but I loved it and I grew, and that led me to this role as a director. And I think I'm in a very, not too dissimilar from Jessica of, I had a political science background, but sometimes when you expose yourself to something new or something you didn't quite know you were into, you have interests that you never knew were there. And it can definitely make you have some big life pivots.
Yeah, so I'll start with the second question first. So I think I came to City Year because I didn't have a job lined up. I majored, like I said, I majored in broadcast and cinematic arts, and I realized at the very end of my time that I actually did not want to go into news producing, although that's what I spent my entire college career researching and being exposed to. I was good at it. It just was not fulfilling for me personally. And so I think what kept me at City Year, so I served my first year. I had a very diverse and interesting team. Most of us still talk, but we all had just different walks of life, and that was fun to me. And so I decided to come back and lead a team. I had some great impact managers over the years who saw some leadership qualities within me. So I decided to come back and lead a team. And then one of my impact managers, actually, he was my manager when I was an AmeriCorps member for my first year. He said, "Don't leave City Year until you feel like you've learned everything, because this is a place where you will get to know not only students, you will get to know district politics, you'll get to know teachers. You'll also have the ability to like practice interviewing and resume building and all different types of things like that. And I think for me, I'm in year 13 and I'm still learning things. And so this is definitely a place where you can learn and professionally grow. And I think that's what excites me. I think for my role now, so I dislike speaking in hierarchy terms, but so Savan reports to me, and so I support a team of Savans. And so there's 3 impact directors currently, but mainly I'm working more on the district strategy side, district relationships, whole visioning for all of our principals, so not just school by school, manager training, and really looking at the core member experience from a whole and making sure that we're making adjustments for folks to be able to have a fulfilling experience, which I think I don't know, I can see the questions in the chat too, and now folks are like calling me out. What kind of professional development opportunities are available? I mean, I think so one, I want to also highlight that several core members, such as myself, come in like not knowing what they want to do after this. And so I definitely think City Year is a great place for you to discover what your career path could be. And so there's a ton of like career exploration activities. We have the ability to set you up with a one-to-one mentor that you connect with throughout the year. And I think that's really rewarding because I know sometimes our core members are like, whoa, like you want me to be like, you want my mentor to be like the head of HR for like the Detroit Pistons. And you're like, yeah, like she's cool. And then you realize like these people are just people who care about core members. And so I think that's extremely valuable. In addition to resume writing, practice interviewing, there's teacher pathways programs. So if you want to go into education, not only do you have an opportunity to work with students and get your feet wet, but you also have the ability to make connections and really get yourself landed into a teaching program after this. Um, but I definitely think it's for sure the ability to network. And then the basic, I'm not even gonna say basic, but there's definitely some things that stand out on your resume after an experience like this. So you do have the ability to analyze data, build plans around it. We don't have the expectation that you come in knowing how to do that though. We train and support you. Um, and so I think it's definitely we definitely have structured professional development programming, but there's also an element of choose your own adventure, and we have folks that are here to be able to support people as well.
Uh, I'll add to that briefly to the professional development thing. One thing I learned as a core member is that when you're working in a school, it's kind of like nothing's off the table. Schools are such dynamic and constantly changing environments that you'll always have a chance to kind of fit yourself in a certain way. And I think one of the best advantages of City Year and being in a school in particular is that there's opportunities for you to work on pretty much any skill you want. As a manager, I've supported core members working on their public speaking. And I say, okay, you want to be a better public speaker? Okay, well, this is an event we're doing. You're going to be the MC and help be the voice of this event. It feels like a small thing, but these are skills that even adults in other fields, you might not even get a chance to have worked on that. And so you're in your career and you never even got to try out these crucial skills. I've had others who, oh, I want to be an event planner. I'm like, all right, cool. We're going to put on a school dance and you're going to help lead all the logistics. And to Jessica's point, you can talk about that on interviews, on resumes. And so even if the professional development opportunities aren't just connections with people, a school environment and City Year environment gives you a chance to really work on any aspect or just professional skills. And it's a very unique opportunity that I don't think is always feasible in other workspaces.
Awesome. Thank you both for speaking more on that and going into such depth. I know that I appreciate all of that information you all just shared, and I'm sure everybody who's watching does as well. I'm seeing another question in the chat that somebody dropped. So in the chat, someone says that they are not from Detroit. So they're wondering that since they're not from Detroit, where will they live? How would you go about finding housing as a core member? And they're also asking about transportation. So is there public transit in Detroit that they'd have access to, or other transportation options for core members? So if anybody could speak to some of those logistics for core members, that would be great.
Yeah. So we have lots of core members every year who are not from Detroit who decide to serve in Detroit. I think the first thing up, you'll get linked with me. As obviously you'll talk to recruiters throughout the process, you'll talk to admissions folks throughout the process. But I serve along with a couple of other staff members as a person to kind of bridge those gaps of like, I have no idea where I'm gonna live. Um, the first thing you'll notice is that after you get accepted into the program and you accept us, as in you confirm that you want to serve with us, you'll get added into a Facebook group. On that group, you'll notice that there will be other folks who are also looking to find a place to live. And so, first things first, you can find a roommate pretty easily. So, we do have core members who live with each other, which is nice for a few reasons. One, like rent is half the price if you live with someone else. And then second, if you don't know anybody in the city and live with someone else who doesn't know anybody in the city, that also gives you a friend to be able to explore together. So that's nice. And so there are different places that folks normally live, some places in the city, some places in surrounding cities. And so we work with folks to make sure that they know of different options, answer questions, and things like that. If you're not from Detroit, Robert also talked about relocation. So you will receive a relocation benefit to be able to put towards any down payments or like lease signings that you need to do. And then as far as public transportation in Detroit, we are the motor city, and so public transit it is available, but we do tell core members it is not necessarily the most reliable option if you have other means to be able to get around. And so our partner schools are relatively close to one another. And so if you are living with a roommate who has a car, we try to make sure that we consider where folks are living as a top priority in terms of how we place folks on teams. So people definitely find ways to make it work. In the beginning of the year, we also, after we place folks on a team, folks are also able to talk about ride situations and ride needs and things like that. Ooh, Savan, looks like somebody's calling you out in the chat.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your answer, Savon.
You're from New Orleans. Why did you choose to come to Detroit? Isn't it cold? Yeah, so here's the thing about the city here, honestly. When I joined the organization and started working as a staff member, I just really became appreciative of working in the nonprofit world. I have friends who work in, corporate world. I have friends who I serve with who are lawyers, doctors, work in all kinds of industries, and I love and I'm proud of what they do. But when we just talk about how our day to day can go, there's little things that I realize, oh, this is a city thing. This isn't really the norm in some of my other peers' workplaces. And so when I wanted to continue to do work in city year and I realized, the opportunity might not exist in New Orleans at the time because that's just how life can be. And there was an opportunity elsewhere. I said, well, a new city is going to be a challenge no matter how you spin it. But if I'm working within city year and it's an org I like, and I already kind of am bought in with a lot of the values, then that should make it a lot easier. And it was a gamble I took. And I mean, I'm absolutely glad I took it because honestly, I was right. I love this job. I love this workplace I'm in. There's a bunch of little things that I try my best to not take for granted. So is it cold? Yes, it is freezing. This has been my first winter. It has been, but also I survived. I made it. Like I made it through the brunt of it. I'll tell you, like if somebody from New Orleans can handle it, I'm sure the rest of anyone else watching is like, you'll be able to handle it. But yeah, I just am bought into the organization and trusted that no matter where I go, I'll have a good experience. And yeah.
I think if I could add, another question wasn't for me, but folks that come from warmer climates, just and I am from Michigan, but watching folks' reactions to snow is beautiful. Like I remember Savon saying, "Oh my God, this is what snow looks like. This is so beautiful." We also make sure that folks, and this seems so silly, but we make sure that folks who are not from colder climates know like what type these types of boots will actually be waterproof. You actually need this type of snow
Hmm.
scraper. So we do find ways to make sure that folks are treated like humans, and that nobody's out here just figuring out different climates. I know that maybe Savon misses being warm all the time, but the fact that you can see more than one season is definitely a benefit of starting here.
Yeah, awesome. So I see another question in the chat that I actually think is a really important question for people to hear. So in the chat, someone says a lot of organizations say that they have positive DBIE values, so diversity, belonging, inclusion, and equity. Do you think that this is true for City Year / City Year Detroit? The positive DBIE values that the organization says they have.
Yeah, I think so. I think too, also being just really realistic. Equity is a journey, and so I think that there, it's impossible to think that anywhere will have uh, DBIE completely figured out, especially an organization as large as City Year. And so I think something that I remind folks of, especially when it comes to the equity part of our service, it is by way of education. And so our core members are tasked with creating equitable learning environments for their students by providing additional supports that they need to be successful. And I think and then obvious, like our, there's so many different ways that we lock into the other parts of DBIE, making sure that we have multiple voices at tables when we decide things. We saw a lot of that, especially last year. In the heart of the pandemic, there were lots of decisions that needed to be made, as well as this year, and making sure that we have several levels of folks and different backgrounds and experiences at the table when we're making decisions that affect other folks' work. And so that's definitely something I know from my particular seat in the organization is always something that I'm plugging in and making sure our executive team is thinking through. Um, and so, yeah, I would say so.
I'll echo a lot of what Jessica said, but I think to really keep it simple, this is one of those, again, conversations I have with my friends who work in other industries, other fields. I won't be as arrogant as to say, as Jessica's point, that City has got it figured out, or oh, we just have this master, because that's just not how I think that we're genuinely trying. Which is the biggest thing, is put spaces where we can, be able to talk about this. And not have it feel uncomfortable only when certain things happen. And again, I
think you might have been going a little in and out there, Savon, with the Wi-Fi. But I think one of the things that you definitely said though is that you wouldn't be as arrogant as the City has it figured out, right? But that that there are definitely places that probably have it less figured out, right? That City makes an active effort to continue its growth in that area.
Yeah, there's an active effort being made that I can see. And even if it's not perfect, even if there's always growing pains and things you gotta learn and missteps, you make a misstep at least from trying.
Yeah, absolutely. So Looking at the chat, looks like we have another question. Um, from your perspectives, what stands out about living and serving in Detroit?
Well, I guess I should take.
Yeah, I
Jessica
was
should
gonna
take
say,
that.
I'm gonna let you take a stab at this one.
Okay, yeah. So, and I say this again coming from New Orleans, which has its own very, very unique education landscape. So I kind of try to remind myself that norm is relative, normal is relative. But I think the biggest thing that stands out about serving in Detroit is, and again, I say this as someone who's from New Orleans, where I think cities can get very unfair characterizations that don't give you context as to why a place is the way it is. And so we have this preconceived notion of what a place is like and what it's, why it's like that. And I think serving here and specifically moving to Detroit, I've just gotten to see get better context as to why, like what the struggles of the city are and what those struggles look like and who do those struggles affect, especially because of the schools that I support with specifically. So I think what stands out is that the students and people, which isn't something I had like I was questioning, but the students and people and everyone in the community are all amazing and just want to have better lives for them and the people around them. And just because an environment you perceive to be a certain way, it doesn't reflect on the actual people you're around. And so just the relationships I've seen in schools with students, how people interact with each other in the building, it's beautiful and it's very genuine. And there's a lot of things that we want our kids to have, but them having that sense of community with their school is something that absolutely stands out to me.
Awesome, perfect. Um, anything to add, Jessica, or Savon cover it?
Savon covered it. I mean, of course I can make a pitch for Detroit all day. I mean, I think there's definitely a certain spirit about Detroit and the Detroit site in particular. We have, and I mentioned the executive team once, but that includes myself, our executive director, our director of HR, if you will, our managing director of service, our director of development. We've all been here for so long because of the people that we work with, and so it's generally a fun place to be. And that sounds like so cliche, but like you really want to work somewhere where you come to work and it doesn't feel like work, but it feels like fulfilling and something you're excited to wake up and do every day. And I think that definitely is the case for serving in Detroit.
Oh, actually, that reminds me. Actually, I forgot to add to this. The biggest thing that stands out for me, also as someone who's new to the area, is to Jessica's point. The leadership here and a lot of staff here are experienced, but also a lot of them are just natives and they're from the community. And I really like. It is a great thing to have people who, especially when it's community facing and based work, the people who are making a lot of big decisions are from Detroit, or they're from some of the areas around Detroit, or they're from Michigan. And that just gives you a level of insight and connection that I think makes you care, because it's not just a job. This is your community. This is where your family's from, your cousins are from, your people are from. I think that gets a certain extra level of buy-in and connection to the work. And again, especially for education and nonprofits, where they kind of can have a bit of a stigma for being people made up mostly of transplants who maybe don't always have the community's best interests at heart. The staff tells me about Detroit and Michigan and their culture and what to do all the time because this is their home.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you both for sharing that and speaking to that, your experiences with that and talking on that. I think that's a really important context to have. So definitely appreciate that. Well, with that, I think that we could probably go ahead and start wrapping up. Savon, Jessica, thank you both so much for taking the time to join us today for this lovely panel and speaking on your experiences, both as City Year alum, City Year staff, and also just about the city of Detroit itself specifically. Very, very much appreciate that. And thank you all for joining and watching us today. And hopefully you all feel compelled to join us here at City Year. Again, please feel free to reach out with any information. And with that, have a wonderful day.
Bye, y'all.